A mother is writing to her government. She writes once, she writes again. The replies, when they come, acknowledge the letter and say nothing. Her daughter served the British state in the war as a secret wireless operator in Nazi-occupied France in 1943, the most dangerous posting in the entire network. Now there is no file, no record, no grave anyone will name. The code name has been struck from the documents. The personnel folder is sealed. For administrative purposes, her daughter never existed. The mother keeps writing. For years, the answer never comes. This is not a story about bravery. You will hear about the bravery. What she did is documented, and it defies every word on that training report. But that is not the engine here. The engine is the silence afterward. Because the most disturbing thing about this woman is not what she did in occupied Paris. It is how completely and how deliberately she was erased once she was dead. And here is the part that will not let go. The erasure was not finished by the enemy. Her own side helped. So hold that. Not who was she. That is coming, and it will reframe everything you are about to hear. The real question is this: who decided she should disappear? And why did it take 50 years to undo? Go back to London, 1943. A report is lying on an officer's desk. It is an assessment of a trainee who has passed the full SOE training sequence and is willing to deploy. The words are not kind, not overbright, too emotional, unsuitable for agent work. A second instructor disagrees, calls her a person worth persevering with. But the damning report exists in writing in the file. By every cautious instinct, she should never be sent into the field. She's sent anyway, within weeks. Her name is Noor Inayat Khan, January the 1st, 1914, Moscow. Her father was an Indian SOO-Fi musician, descended from Tipu Sultan, the 18th century ruler of Mysore, who fought the British East India Company and lost. Her mother was American, from Albuquerque, a woman of New Mexico who had followed a SOO-Fi teacher across 3 continents. Noor grew up between London and Paris, wrote and published a children's book of Buddhist fables in 1939, played the ve-na, and refused to eat meat. She was, by temperament, a pacifist. Picture the distance between that woman and what happened next. Then France fell. The whole country fell in 6 weeks, faster than almost anyone had believed possible. She and her family fled to England, and she did something that surprised everyone who knew her. She volunteered. In June 1943, she became something no one expected of her. The Special Operations Executive, Britain's secret sabotage service, sent her into Nazi-occupied France. She was its first female wireless operator deployed to the field. Her code name was Madeleine. Her job was the most dangerous in the entire network, and she already knew what that meant. A wireless operator was the link. Every message between London and the resistance passed through her transmitter, and the Germans had radio detection vans crawling the streets, triangulating signals. The average life expectancy of a wireless operator in occupied France was measured in weeks. 6 weeks. That was the grim figure the agents themselves repeated. The longer you stayed on the air, the closer they got. A transmission was a thread leading straight back to your room. She had been sent in carrying the very report that said she could not handle it. Then it got worse than anyone planned for. The summer she arrived, the largest SOE circuit in France, the Prosper network, was penetrated and collapsed. The arrests cascaded. More than 400 agents were swept up across the country. The structure she had been dropped into simply ceased to exist. The radio sets went silent one by one, and Noor was the only operator left standing in Paris. London offered to bring her home. A plane could be arranged. She refused. They offered again. She refused again. She made a choice that no training report could have predicted. She stayed. She became, for 4 months, the single functioning link between London and what remained of the resistance in the French capital. Think about what that life looked like. She carried a heavy transmitter in a suitcase through a city full of checkpoints. She changed safe houses constantly, sometimes every night. She dyed her hair. She transmitted, then moved, then transmitted again, while the detection vans hunted the airwaves for exactly her signal. The Gestapo knew there was still a radio in Paris. They wanted it badly. They just couldn't find the woman operating it. For 4 months, the woman they called Unsuitable outran them all. But here is what no one tells you about how it ended. Remember the unanswered letters, the sealed file. That silence did not start with the British government. It started here. Because outrunning the detection vans was never going to be enough on its own. She was not caught by a German technological breakthrough. She was not caught by the radio vans closing in. She was caught because someone told them exactly where she was. On the 13th of October 1943, Noor Inayat Khan was arrested. She was taken with her codebooks and her cipher pads, the keys to every message she had sent. And here is the question that has never been answered. Who betrayed her? 2 names appear in the records. The first is Renée Garret, the sister of the man who ran Noor's own subcircuit. The second is Henry Dare E. Cour, an SOE air operations officer later suspected of working for German intelligence. Money may have changed hands. Jealousy may have played a part. The question has been examined in every biography, in every declassified file, and it remains open. The files are out now, and they still do not settle it. Whoever sold her name was never prosecuted, not one person. The betrayal sits in the record, unresolved to this day. Hold that. It matters in a moment. What happened next was designed to leave no record at all. The Germans classified her Nacht und Nebel, night and fog. It was not a prison sentence. It was an erasure order. It meant no notification to the family, no Red Cross, no visible record outside the building that held her. A person under night and fog was supposed to vanish into exactly that, fog, and never be accounted for. They held her at Pfalzheim prison in Germany. 10 months, solitary confinement. Her wrists were chained to her ankles, a restraint that let her sit but not stand straight. In their own documents, they marked her a particularly dangerous prisoner. All her training, the ciphers, the transmitters, the escape techniques, none of it could reach through stone and chains. But she did not give them the networks. She did not break. On the 13th of September 1944, she was taken to DEHK concentration camp and executed. She was 30 years old. A witness who survived gave testimony at the post-war war crimes trials. Her last word, they said, was a single one: Liberté. 3 other SOE women were killed alongside her that same day. And then, the fog did its work. Her file stayed sealed for decades. Her mother wrote and wrote to the British government, asking what had become of her daughter, and received nothing that answered the question. The woman who had been the last radio in Paris was, on paper, almost nobody. The records that could speak for her were locked away. Now remember, the betrayer who sold her name was never prosecuted, and the government that sent her, with a report calling her unsuitable, into a network already compromised, kept its reasons for silence locked in the same files. The erasure that began with the enemy was quietly continued by her own side. The files were finally released in the 1990s, half a century after Dachau, long after the mother who wrote those letters could read a single page of them. November 2012. A square in London, one you could walk past without knowing what it holds. A crowd gathers around a bronze figure of a young woman in a WAF uniform. It is the first statue of an Asian woman ever raised anywhere in Britain. Her name is on the plinth, in full, where no document would carry it for 50 years. Gordon Square. It stands just 85 meters from the building where she once trained, in secret, to transmit. 68 years after they erased her, the fog finally lifted. Not because the institutions confessed, because people refused to let the silence be the last word, and put her name, at last, somewhere it could not be sealed away. Here is what the record shows. Who decided she should disappear? More than one side did. The enemy classified her night and fog. Her own government sealed the file, and the person who sold her name walked free. It took 68 years and a statue to overrule all of them. If this story held you, watch the one we made about Christine Granville, the other SOE woman Britain tried to forget, who survived the entire war only to be murdered in a London hotel. It's linked right there.